Well, have I got a truth bomb for you this week? It's all about a devastating report that has just dropped out of Washington, D.C. with extraordinary new information about the Australian government's effort to censor what you can say and do and think online, and specifically the alleged links between this woman, Julie Inman Grant, Australia's eSafety Commissioner, as she is officially known, or as we call her on Outsiders, the E-Karen, and a shadowy US-based online advertising cabal, which a US House Judiciary Committee interim report says set out to throttle advertising dollars from websites and social media platforms, particularly Elon Musk's Twitter, that dared to allow free speech and conservative ideas to flourish. Now, this cabal was known as the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, or GARM, and they wanted to starve anyone who platformed conservative thought, libertarian thought, and anything that questioned the narrative on topics ranging from COVID to mass migration to all sorts of other things, and drive them out of business. So, Julie Inman Grant, well, where does she come in? She needs no introduction. She is a very connected woman, born in America, who, for whatever reason, happens to have moved to Australia about 20 or so years ago. Although, unlike some of us, she didn't bring with her a robust commitment to the values of free speech and liberty that some of us others Americans who came to Australia did. Just, in fact, the opposite. Instead, in her role as the eSafety Commissioner, or the E-Karen, and by the way, thanks to Tony Malcolm Turnbull and former member for Bradfield Paul Fletcher for creating this office, she has used the excuse of hate speech and phrases like online harm to try to force the Australian government to censor what can and cannot be said online. Now, in the past, she has tried to do everything from block footage of a local Sydney Maronite bishop when he was being stabbed by a crazed attacker in the pulpit. Well, she tried to keep that from being online. She also whipped up a phony fear during the Voice campaign that Indigenous Australians would be abused online. And many people saw that as a specious attempt to crack down on no-vote messaging. Oh, and of course, Julie Inman Grant has generally been a busy little bee trying to get platforms to take down anything she doesn't like through quote-unquote informal notices, including one trying to shut down Celine Baumgarten's post about whether or not a queer club at a Melbourne primary school was really such a hot idea. And you'll remember we had Celine, or Celine Against the Machine, as she likes to call herself, on this program just a few months ago. Well, now, where are we today? Thanks to this congressional report from the House Judiciary Committee, we have learned more about Inman Grant's activities, including her communications with the head of this advertising cartel I mentioned before, the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, or GARM, which I can report has happily been shut down, but which, according to dailywire.com, quote, used its control of the global advertising spending to bankrupt conservative publishers, was working with regulators in Europe and Australia to force Twitter, now X, to fall in line with its censorship demands, unquote. Shocking stuff. And the House Judiciary Committee report is pretty damning. Among other things, it found that, quote, GARM colluded with both advertisers and foreign regulators to pressure Twitter to comply with GARM's demands. The report went on, quote, in Australia, and here's where it gets interesting, in Australia, eSafety Commissioner Julie Inman Grant relied on GARM to inform her engagement and regulatory decisions, highlighting GARM's significant collective power in helping to hold the platforms to account. And then there was this, again from the report, quote, in another message on an email thread, which I'll get to in a moment, GARM initiative lead and co-founder Robert Rakowitz stated that that silencing President Trump was, quote, the main thing, likening the president's rhetoric to a contagion that must be contained, quote, to protect infection overall. Now, the strategy here, we can start to see it take shape. The strategy was to stifle Americans' ability, and remember, Americans have that precious First Amendment right, which we don't have in Australia. And the idea was to use platforms like Twitter or X, freely stop them from using them freely by using foreign governments, not American ones, to regulate their use globally, including the way they could be used inside the U.S. You see how this works? Now, helpfully, this House Judiciary report, it brings receipts. It contains an entire annex of threads of emails between GARM chief Rob Rakowitz and our own Julie Inman Grant, who reached out to GARM shortly after Elon Musk acquired Twitter. She reached out to Rakowitz and said, I believe GARM, this is Julie Inman Grant talking, has significant collective power in helping to hold the platforms to account, which of course is code for they can regulate and restrict free speech. Rakowitz wrote back, so lovely to hear from you. I am sharing documents in confidence about a, quote, major ongoing intervention, unquote, and adding, quote, it would be great to line up together around a shared agenda. Well, there you go. That is the agenda of throttling free speech, the agenda of stopping Donald Trump, the agenda of keeping people from being able to use Twitter the way Elon Musk wanted them to, i.e. freely. Then, all of this goes on. In a further email, Rakowitz reveals what this is really about, what the report mentioned before. And in it, this is the smoking gun. Rakowitz writes to Inman Grant, my main thing is I need to see Trump effectively sidelined because I am afraid the contagion is too widespread to protect infection overall. Well, there it is, folks, in black and white. And I tell you what this is all about and why this is so important. Shadowy officials and quote-unquote non-government initiatives in the U.S. funded by who knows whom, using things that sound really lovely like online safety and protection from harms to interfere with the political process. That is to shut down anything that may be harmful to the accepted left liberal narratives on Trump, climate, immigration, or whatever. And this really was trying to get people not to be able to say what they want to and share news about Trump. And the scary thing is, this report suggests that there may have been an Australian part of this headed by an American-born woman and created by a supposedly liberal center-right government to do it. Now, I tell you what, that is an explosive truth bomb.